I'd say that Team Chaotix, comprised of Vector, Charmy, and Espio, are of the few Sonic characters who haven't really been held back by poor writing or characterization over the course of the franchise's history, but rather, they haven't been given the chance to appear very often, let alone as compelling individuals in their own right. Despite this, the trio's appearances over the years have highlighted a perhaps previously overlooked aspect of their characters. From the group's first 3D adventure in Sonic Heroes to one of their most recent outings in the new Chaotix Case Files audio drama, I get the sense that the Chaotix's motivation for their job has fluctuated, and in turn has brought to light the importance of managing this motivation in a sustainable way. What's also been brought to light, I feel, is the importance of evaluating our reasons for striving for certain goals. For this character analysis on Vector, Charmy, and Espio, we'll put the different Sonic media that they've starred in, particularly Sonic Heroes, under the magnifying glass, take a closer look at their motives across these media, and come to understand how these might reflect our own possibly self-sabotaging habits when it comes to working towards something. In addition to this, we'll try to see what we can learn about general motivation and, in some of the more extreme cases, burnout. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video.
It's here! Yeah!
What's wrong with you?
It's here! It's here! We've got work!
What?
I've heard good things about you and require your detective services. And I can pay handsomely.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Espio, don't be silly. Besides, you know our policy. We never turn down work that pays.
Yeah, you know our policy!
Come on, boys. Let's go.
Yes, sir!
Roger.
At face value, it doesn't seem like there's much to unpick from the Chaotix's introduction in Sonic Heroes. But as with the other cutscenes I've analysed extensively in the past, there always turns out to be a few things with a deeper meaning. In this particular case, I'd like to break down each of Vector, Charmy, and Espio's individual attitudes prior to studying how their collective motivation as a team is shaped throughout the rest of the narrative. Let's start with Vector. We first see him enjoying some music from the radio, which quite fittingly happens to be Team Chaotix's theme song. Vector's immersion in the music is then immediately lost as soon as Charmy bursts in with the very item that kicks off the agency's next case. Subsequently, Vector's attention quickly shifts from his music and scolding Charmy for crashing into him to their client's walkie-talkie and the promise of an astronomical payout. Then for the rest of this cutscene, Vector keeps this promise front and center while making all other previous thoughts, activities, and concerns a secondary priority. He doesn't even stop for a moment to consider Espio's reservations about their situation and his deduction that something's wrong. Speaking of Espio, he's first shown to be keeping to himself quietly in the corner of the agency's office, most likely pondering on a multitude of things we could only hope to guess. As a ninja who no doubt has to demonstrate his self-discipline in order to effectively train in his art, we can gather that he isn't the kind of person to carry out compulsory duties or even general responsibilities in half measures. When he's got a task to do, his mind and attention are focused on making sure that he does things thoroughly, which kind of reminds me of Blaze. I wouldn't be surprised if Espio turned out to be an introvert in a similar manner to Blaze. But the crucial point about Espio's motivation that probably underlies all that he does is that he enjoys the challenges posed by obstacles and opponents coming his way. He can also seem quite pumped up at the prospect of emerging as a more skilled and proficient ninja, regardless of the line of work. This can be inferred not just from Sonic Heroes, but also games like The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, where Espio's flaunting of his speed reading may reflect how proud he is of his high-speed information processing, a noteworthy skill a ninja would need for the ninjutsu arts. Last but not least, we have Charmy. As a young and potentially inexperienced kid, Taking into account that Sonic Heroes is the second time he appears in the main series, I don't think Charmy really has any personal motivations that make him exclusively defined, different, or unique from Vector or Espio, other than wanting to be a big help to his teammates. They aren't just his elders, but in fact, at the very core, his family. If any of you have seen my video on Sage and Eggman's familial bond, you might remember me discussing the concept of operant conditioning, where a given behavior would be carried out more often so long as rewards, tangible or otherwise, are given each time to reinforce it. I bring this up mainly because Charmy shows just as much, if not more enthusiasm than Vector about this high-paying case in their Sonic Heroes introductory cutscene. The reason for this? My guess is that it could be down to Charmy identifying with Vector in a way where Charmy expresses his desire to acquire the same thing that Vector does. A job well done spells out a big reward, lots of money, and it seems like the only thing spurring them on in this scenario. Espio's definitely the odd one out here with his doubts about the case, just as we looked at before. Even still, his only option was to go along with the majority of the team and work towards fulfilling their new client's request. This is their main objective over the course of their story during Heroes, and coupled with Vector and Charmy's initial individual motives, we're left with a clear example of an extrinsic type of motivation. Extrinsic motivation, similar to operant conditioning, is generally defined as the will to engage in a behavior, activity, or task to gain rewards or to avoid punishment, as opposed to doing things for enjoyment, meaning, or satisfaction. One theory that expands on this concept is the self-determination theory by Deci and Ryan. It suggests that extrinsic motivation alone can lead to poor quality engagement during the task at hand, as well as poor well-being. This is because one can start to feel pressured to act and ultimately become controlled by the very thing they set out to accomplish. You might lose your sense of autonomy or presence, you might spiral, and nothing but the outcome consumes you completely until you're not really yourself in the moment anymore. Thankfully, there are different ways, including through intrinsic motivation, that can help us avoid these dangers relating to extrinsic motivation and loss of autonomy and meaning. We'll explore this further by looking at the turning points of the Chaotix' saga during Heroes, in addition to seeing some examples of the group acting not in the interest of or solely for monetary gains.
Good job, boys. Guess that Eggman was a fake after all.
Of course it was.
Oh?
Listen carefully. There's a jungle just to the north of here. Go there immediately.
Got it.
You know what? Our client sure seems to know a lot about this Dr. Eggman guy.
Definitely an agent. A relative, perhaps.
Strangely enough, I had the same weird feeling about our client's real identity. It could be you-know-who.
It's at this point, after discovering that the Eggman the Chaotix had fought was in reality a fake, both Vector and Charmy begin to catch onto the fact that there's more going on than meets the eye. It also lines up with Espio's bad feeling from before. This is pretty interesting since the former two were the ones who admitted that they were tagging along for the money. At least, initially. Now sure, an alternative to this situation may have still involved Vector and Charmy working out that something was amiss, yet they could have chosen to ignore that and continue onwards with the money at the forefront of their minds. So the question is, why did their motivation change from working to meet a client's expectations and receive a tangible reward to seeking out the truth? Why did the team press on to confirm their suspicions and pursue this truth, with the possibility of it turning out to be a painful one that they didn't want to hear? The simple and short answer is that finding the truth, or finding justice in this case, could be seen as the right thing to do. You can, after all, argue that the Chaotix are aligned as hero characters. But I imagine that this task is something that they willingly put aside their time for, even if they weren't going to get paid for it. Now, instead of clinging onto extrinsic motivation for the case, the trio has a more defined intrinsic motivation. Unlike the former, an intrinsic type of motivation is characterized by the drive to engage in a task or activity for the sake of the process and to get personal enjoyment or satisfaction from it. Individuals who are intrinsically motivated would tend to be more persistent and productive, given that what they're doing has personal, abstract, and internal value to them, and someone's successes or failures wouldn't be assigned worth based on tangible barriers. So this is why the poor engagement in tasks that would be a sign of extrinsic motivation isn't an indication of the intrinsic type. And this can also explain why Vector, Charmy, and Espio have stuck at it as detectives for so long, despite running into all sorts of hurdles, like struggling to obtain clients to work for and earning enough even just to pay off the rent. Realistic problems to have in their own right, but also ones that I'm sure a lot of us know the pain of in the real world, especially with the state of the global economy. Anyway, I'd quickly just like to highlight other examples of the Chaotix striving for truth and justice. The most prominent of these that I can think of are the team's contributions towards the heroic cause during the Metal Virus arc in the IDW comics, Vector and Charmy's sacrifices, as well as the trio's newfound resolve to aid in the fight against the Metarex in Season 3 of Sonic X, despite initially going out into space only to deliver some supplies to Chris Thorndike. The thing is, though, I'm not trying to definitively say that having intrinsic motivation alone is the best scenario, or that extrinsic motivation is inherently bad because it brings out the monotonous and soulless versions of ourselves. In fact, I'm suggesting that even though it will be tricky, we need to try and strike a balance between these two types of motivation if we're ever going to get the important things done on our to-do list that are of immediate priority, but also avoid feeling like a zombie trapped in an endless cycle every time we go through routines or go to school or work. If, for example, we let the extrinsic motivation take over, that can easily result in the negative consequences I've already described, as well as burnout if taken to the extreme. I've mentioned on several occasions that I'm a university student studying psychology, and it probably isn't a surprise to you when I say that I've had some experience of burnout. For a time, I lost the initial drive I had to study the subject I was so passionate and curious about. I felt so detached from the people and environment around me, sick from constant migraines, and guilty about how little I would manage to get done. All this due to prolonged hyperfixation on deadlines and exams, the things I had to do in order to earn my degree, a tangible reward. Though it wasn't just as a student when this burnout has happened, it also happened again not too long ago in other areas of my life, including as a content creator making this very video, and I've only just about recovered. I've noticed that whenever I go through these unbearable periods of time, they tend to last a few days, but in the midst of it all, I'd be very emotionally exhausted and I'd hardly get up from bed for anything. Of course, there's no single absolute solution for dealing with burnout. The same can be said for managing general motivation levels. And while I know that different things work for different people, I thought I'd at least share a few of my personal tips and insights in the form of strategies to end off this video. Some or all you'll have come across elsewhere, but they're here nonetheless and will hopefully be of some help. Strategy number 1. Walk away from the thing making you feel exhausted or burnt out. I understand that it may not be feasible to walk away from school commitments like homework or deadlines, but it could be just as simple as blocking out some time, a day, a few days, or even a week, spent resting or doing something that has nothing to do with your original task. Maybe take a power nap, or enjoy a nice relaxing hobby like reading or listening to some calming music. If it's your job that's causing you frequent periods of chronic stress or fatigue, maybe the job doesn't align with your personal values and overall goals in life. It might be worth considering a different job that you'd find meaningful and speaks to you on a personal and emotional level. Strategy number 2. Adjust your sleep schedule. I know as well as the next person how difficult it is to sleep early, let alone maintain that early routine, especially with a jam-packed weekly schedule. But even though I start falling into the habit of sleeping late every now and again, adjusting my sleep schedule gradually really helps. For example, try going to bed 10 minutes earlier tonight, 30 minutes earlier the next night, and 1 hour the following night. You can keep this process going as many times as you need, and with the time intervals you want until you're falling asleep at a time you're happy with. Strategy number 3. Break down your to-do list into quick, actionable steps. Sometimes we may feel reluctant to do things and end up procrastinating because our tasks appear daunting or just too much to handle in one go. It's possible that you can start building up momentum quickly to work down your list if you break down each task into smaller parts that can be done as quickly as possible and with the least amount of effort required. Which leads me very nicely onto my last strategy. Strategy number 4. Use the 5-minute rule. One of my lecturers said to me that the hardest part about any task is often just making a start, and I honestly couldn't agree more. As the name suggests, the aim of the 5-minute rule involves you setting a timer for 5 minutes and giving your task your undivided attention and focus during that time. The aim is to help make your tasks more manageable, whether they're big or small, and you may find instead that you're able to work past these 5 minutes or even complete a large portion of your task without you realizing. I use this technique quite a lot and it really helps when I don't show up with the intention of doing any work. So there you have it. It's time for some final thoughts. Vector, Charmy and Espio admittedly haven't been on my radar lately as Sonic characters that could spark a lot of in-depth discussion or analysis. But me being able to write more than I thought I could about them for this script speaks volumes about their hidden nuances and intricacies that can be left untold of. I really admire them for sticking to their core personal values of justice and honesty, and I definitely think we can learn a thing or two from this group about identifying the dangers of superficial goals on their own, as well as what it means for each of us to cultivate meaningful and purposeful livelihoods. The Chaotix Case Files audio drama series is shaping up to be a fantastic showcase of the team's capabilities and endearing qualities, so I have hope that we'll be able to gain more insight, inspiration, and entertainment from this ragtag group of detectives in the near future.
No job too big, no gig too small, nothing too dangerous, Chaotix do it all! Give us your mystery, you wouldn't want to miss when the Chaotix are on the case.
In a healthy and sustainable way, of course. Thanks so much for watching till the very end, everyone. That's it for now. I definitely dug in deep to get this video out, and I feel really proud of what I've produced. I can safely say that it's this sense of accomplishment coupled with the joy I feel in the process that help keep me going. Not to mention the breaks and rest in between. I just want to thank Zamwell Now from the comment section for giving me the idea inspiration I needed to fully realize this video. I'll definitely try to cover as many characters as I can, so don't feel discouraged if I can't currently get round to your suggestions. In other news, I've also been blown away by the amount of support my last video got. I managed to surpass 1,000 subscribers, and I'm just so grateful to every single one of you guys. It really means a lot, and I couldn't have done it without you. So to celebrate, I have some exciting things in store for the channel in the foreseeable future. Stay tuned for all that. In the meantime, if you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like, comment and subscribe for more in-depth takes on the Sonic characters just like this one. Anyways, thanks again everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night. Take care.